let's take someone with a random account, with a random name that just seems attractive.
Play live online against the world's top chess players while they stream their thoughts live. As a Chess24 Premium member, seize the chance to have your moment of fame. Get a peek inside their lives with question and answer sessions, in-depth teaching, analysis and interviews. The Champions Chess Tour, with countless accompanying events, is happening now. Tune in on Chess24.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Banter Blitz. Oops, that was a bit loud. So I will take on challenges, preferably 3 minutes, but anything is fine. Let's see if Miguel is here from Spain. I will just, I think, accept the challenges quite randomly. It's too difficult to come up with a proper system for that. But Miguel is here. He starts with d4. So let's play, as I did in the tournament. I played a lot of Greenfeld, so I will try to do the same. Knight c3. Interesting. This is the Jobava system. So he intends to go e4. So I should probably stop it. e3. And there is always a big question for white if he should go knight b5 or not. And I think in general knight b5 is quite useful for white because it stops or it forces black's knight to a6 to defend c7, which is kind of a bad square. So I guess I will play c6 to stop it. Now my knight can go to d7 later. Let's see. Hope you're all doing well today. Of course, we are all looking forward to the final tonight. Should be very exciting. I mean, hopefully as exciting as it was yesterday with especially Magnus against Nepo was an incredible fight. So, but I'm sure that the finals will be equally interesting. So let's see here. The normal move would be to play e5, but then he takes, and I'm not sure I can keep everything together. So I play queen b6, hitting d4 and b2, and should be pleasant for black, but I'm not sure if it's better already. I mean, I'm expecting something like d5 to try to complicate matters a bit, but I do believe that with my strong bishop and a rook quickly coming to the d file, I'm quite happy. Bishop e3, probably a good move. Now if I take on b2, take the pawn, then he goes rook b1, and b7 is hanging, so probably not what I want. I think I'll just go rook a1, a8. If d5, I think I'll simply play c5 and block it. And then my bishop on g7 is a monster. So b3 played. I think I'll move the queen and try to get e5 in soon. So, like, my opponent has the bishop pair. But in this structure, this is first of all very, very solid for black because I don't have weaknesses. But also, like the dark squares in his camp is a bit, they are a bit weak. Bishop d2, probably I will now try to provoke him a little bit. Queen a3. And okay, c3 is solid at least. I want to play e5, but I'm curious what happens after d5. Probably I will have some sort of tactics. I'm not sure what, but just by feeling there should be something possible to do. Yeah, and after this, now it's already quite pleasant for me, I think. So now white will get an isolated pawn on d4. A queen c1. Well, now I think I'm just collecting a pawn, so still not so easy to win with against the bishop pair, but an extra pawn is a good start, of course. Hello, Hungry Eagle. How are you? Trying to keep track of the chat a bit as well. Should be not too difficult, I hope. And salute, Alex. Yeah, king g7 to avoid any back rank mates. Should be useful. And now I think I have sort of consolidated, and next I will try to keep trading some rooks. I have a feeling it's, objectively speaking, quite close to a draw, but I think in practice with such an extra pawn, you're very likely to win in a blitz game. So bishop b8 now. Question is always, should I try to attack his pawns immediately, or should I just try to improve slowly? I think generally improving slowly is the correct way. Now I have a small trick, I think, to take on f2. And with... Why not just go to the pawn ending, actually? Getting a bit confused by what I'm doing here. Pawn endings are always quite straightforward to win when you are better. Oops. Yeah, okay, thank you. Good game. It was actually quite a big fight, turned out to be. So thank you very much, Miguel. Let's play. Someone called Hector Chess TV. It's another guy from Spain, actually. Let's see if he's there. I don't know who it is, but let's soon find out, I guess. Again, London. So in 2 games, I'm getting 2 Londons. What is this? Yeah. This is, I guess, just how it is nowadays. I'm changing by playing 2c5, which is generally speaking a little bit more exciting. But yeah, knight c3. And now the question is always, can you take? And the answer is that usually you can't, which is becomes a bit unclear why I took on d4. Let's see. So my claim here is that knight on c3 is a bit misplaced, but if that claim has any merit, I'm not sure. Could be that I just gave him a free tempo. Especially when I took on d4, traded the pawns in the center. I think actually white is doing quite well here. Just bishop d3. And now the big question is, should I try to make something, go for some tactics against c3, like try to attack c3 a couple of times, but to be honest, I don't see how it gives me anything special. So yeah, I'll just develop instead. But I'm drifting into a sort of significantly worse position, because now knight b5 will be coming quite soon. Like if I take, what is going on? If I take here on d4, he takes, I take. He has knight b5, but his bishop is hanging, so I think, yeah, if I'm not blind, it actually works for me. Yeah, then I'm happy, of course, because now I'm a pawn up. So probably he missed that that the bishop on f4 was a bit loose. How I am? I'm asked. Well, I'm fine. I actually, for those of you who saw when I was joining the Peter and Tanya in last Tuesday, the day after the tournament, they probably noticed that I was quite a bit more tired than I usually am. I was, frankly speaking, exhausted after the tournament. It was very, very tough. But I had some days of rest now, and I'm basically fine again. So I should be. Now I feel good. And later on, actually today at 6, I will be joining Hare Krishna's broadcast between 6 and 7 tonight, and again tomorrow between 5 and 7. So if you want to have more of me, you can tune in to Pantala Hare Krishna's commentary, both today and tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to it quite a bit myself, actually, because he's a good friend of mine and also quite an entertaining guy. So frankly speaking, I have the feeling we are a bit spoiled, because when I tune in to watch, I mean, after I played, now I'm watching every day, of course. And then, I mean, there are so many broadcasts. I don't even know which one to choose. Hang on, now I have to be careful because he wants to sacrifice on h6. Whoops, what did I do? How do I survive this even? This was not what was supposed to happen. This is super scary for me now. Can I take on f3 just to confuse matters? Probably not. Let me do it like this. Yeah, but what did I do now? Suddenly my position got very bad very quickly. Let's try to just, now I'm just doing something that should not be working, but let's see. Also, I'm very low on time, which is not a great thing. But I think I'm doing fine chess-wise, actually. Doing better on the board than on the clock currently. Because he takes back, but actually I am the one with the attack on the g file. So for some reason, suddenly I'm doing well. Yeah, that was very lucky. I completely missed this idea of sacrificing on h6. And now it should be fairly straightforward. Some pre-moving should do the job. Yeah, okay, again, another sharp game. At some point I was in trouble, but I mean, also earlier I was doing very well, so let's see. Hungry Eagle. Let's have a game with the Hungry Eagle from the UK. Fast and accurate. Well, at least it was fast once I realized that I was low on time. Now let's see. Of course, I gotta play the knight of after. This is interesting. Bishop g5. Now there are many options. It's the sharpest move. So Geary recommends in this series to go with the bishop on e7 and just the old sort of very solid main line. But it's frankly speaking a little bit boring, I think. I would play my childhood favorite, the Pologaevsky variation. You play b5, you ignore the threat of e5, and if white plays e5, it becomes very sharp, but you are basically busted with black if white knows what he's doing, but nobody knows anymore. At least that's the experience in my games. So, and the point is, if white doesn't play e5 and doesn't try to punish then you have an improved version, because then you did not have to commit any of your pieces to stupid squares. So now I'm basically happy. Yeah, who do I think will win, Nepo or Giri? It's very hard to say, because I mean Wesley was the one who impressed me the most up until the semifinal. Wesley played very, very well, and then Giri sort of beat him 2.5 twice. Yeah, so maybe actually Giri is in a very strong position. But then again, Nepo beat the world champion, so I don't know. It's tough. Also, they have the candidates in less than a month, or in a month, which confuses matters even more. So I don't dare to make a prediction. They are both Naido players, which is, I mean, I don't care who will win. Yeah, it will be excellent for the Naido in any case. So yeah, I will be looking forward. Also, there's the sort of third place match between Magnus and Wesley will be very interesting to follow, because Wesley and Magnus, they have faced off in finals earlier, and they are usually having very tough fights. So yeah, basically both matches will be very, very interesting, and I have no idea how it will go. And Ellen, how are you, Ellen? Likes my cup, which was a gift, I think, from Ellen. Yeah, F5, this is how White plays in sort of similar lines. But I'm not sure about this version for White, because now usually you take with the, I mean, you have some other issues with Black. Here I think I have an excellent version, because I think I'll just play E5 and keep the position closed. Now I picked up a pawn and my king looks solid enough. So let's see, knight d(e)2. I mean, the traditional way to do this would be to drop back with the queen to d8, and then have it sort of ready on the queen side as well. But the more ambitious option would be to try to keep the queen active and play something like knight f6, intending queen g4, and but I think I will have to do it the solid way. Knight f6. And do I think victory in the Magnus Carlsen Invitational will be worth using candidates prep? In general, there are many aspects to this question. It's a very, very good question. I would say, if I have to just answer yes or no, I would say yes, because not so much the win in itself, but also the confidence boost it gives. Like if you win the tournament, it's sort of a very good sign before the candidates, and it gives you this confidence, and you will be likely more motivated and so on. But on the other hand, let's say you prepared a completely new opening, which you want to have hidden, then I mean, to play a small new ID somewhere is fine, but to play your entire set of new openings, that's maybe not worth it, and also maybe not that useful, because in these rapid events it's all about knowing what you do and not confusing yourself also. So I mean, yes or no, yeah. Now, okay, I made this traditional sacrifice on c3. Now d5 to open up for the bishop, and after bishop a3 check, this sort of mating pattern, it's usually made, but now I just realized if I take on c3 with the queen, there is bishop takes b5 check, and I'm losing my queen due to the discovered attack, so I will have to take with the knight. But that should be winning, because knight takes c3 will come next time. And thank you, Hungry Eagle, for the game. Actually, now I crossed 3,000, which is for me probably good news. Let's play some. I'm trying to mix up all the sort of different levels. Let's play winning technique. From Finland. Wow. Haven't played someone from Finland in a long time. Let's play the Nimzovich Sicilian. The knight f6 is rare, but I actually did play it against Magnus Carlsen himself in a classical game in OHS. But I also got sort of mated in 20 moves, so I'm not sure if you should take it as a... It's sort of a don't try this at home kind of opening. So knight b4. I don't think c4, generally speaking, is the most ambitious way. Because now the knight, it looks very clumsy, but it's also sort of coming to the d4 square quite quickly. Which looks... But how do I mean, it looks like my knights are making sense, but I just have to figure out how to play the position. Probably knight d4. And now what I would like to do is trade the knight and go with the other knight to c6 and take control of this weakened square on d4. Now if it takes, I can actually take back with the pawn on d4, and the pawn on e5 is hanging. So now bishop e3 is interesting, but what is going to happen if I simply collect? Knight takes f3 and knight takes e5. He plays queen g3. Play this. I'm sort of way behind in development. I'll try not to take it. Trolling knight variation of the Sicilian. Well, it's actually called the Nimzovich Sicilian. It's I would say almost a proper opening. It has been played by Bamajaro in a couple of games as well. It's not equalizing, that I can say for certain, but it's also better than it looks. So do with that what you want. But now I'm happy, because I think this was not the way for white to utilize it. Now the most likely thing that will happen is that I will pick up the e5 pawn someday, I hope. But when is that someday? Is it soon? I think pretty soon. Now, I got the bishop pair as well, and after I win the pawn on e5, this bishop on g7 will be very, very strong, I hope so. I might have to give back the d4 pawn, but I will still be massively better because of my bishop pair, I think. This should be fine. Okay, bishop b7. Just he will play b5, I will take on e5, but he will collect on d4, but I will not mind so much because he doesn't take on d4. Okay, now it's just a clear pawn, so should be straightforward. Knowing myself, it will not be straightforward because I will do something stupid, but at least it should be with correct play. Because I have two advantages. I have the bishop pair and I have an extra pawn. So normally you need one to be clearly better and two advantages to be winning, and here I have two. So. But now the counterplay starts and things will get messy. Let's see, what should I do? My opponent has started to increase his speed as well, which is scary for me. I will do the same. Hang on. I want to trade queens, but how do I trade queens? This was one pre-move too much, one too many, sorry. Now I picked up a piece, so this was... Ah, he decides to fight on, okay. I think I have enough time. Okay, winning technique from Finland. Thank you for the game. And now, let's see if I will play some. Agnus Carlsen. Let's try against Agnus Carlsen from Germany. What should I do? How do I play with white? Let's play knight c3. Some anti-Sicilian. And this very nice line of putting the queen on d2 or play b3, bishop b2, and castle long and just attack, which looks very bad, should be very bad, but is in fact not so bad. It's actually very interesting, which still is hard for me to believe, but I guess you have enough sort of central control for to be allowed some extravagances like playing b3, bishop b2. Because I have looked at it a bit, and it's not easy for black at all. Bishop e6. Usually it's a very good idea to bring this knight to either f4 or d4 to cement the position a bit. And my sort of plan is that after he has played a5, I have played a4, then it's very hard for him to open up on the queen side. So I have this stability. Then long term, my play will come on the queen side, so, or on the king side, sorry. Zavitch is asking if I plan to do any course on Chessable. I do actually. I have some work in progress, but I will not reveal any further details before I'm further along the way. But yes, it's definitely on the horizon. Some Chessable course. I have a course already, but not for Chessable. But I have tried the concept of making video courses, and I quite enjoyed it. And regarding tournaments, there is not that much actually. I mean, unfortunately, we were going to play the Sigeman tournament in Sweden. The Tepe Sigeman was about to start in roughly a month with Karpov among the participants, but they had to cancel it due to the COVID restrictions in Sweden. So it will possibly be played in the autumn instead. I hope so, but it will not be played in April as expected. Knight takes e4. Yeah, I was a bit worried that something like this would happen to me when I did not pay attention, but what is actually the idea? So if I take with the knight, then c2 is hanging, and that is not very good. I have to take with the pawn, and now he will trade everything and give his rook on c3 with some compensation for the exchange, actually. But the queens are off the board, so it should not be enough. Some compensation, but I definitely think that white is better here. So, and as usual, when you have like the extra exchange with two rooks, a very, very good way of making use of it is to trade the opponent's last remaining rook. That usually increases the chances, or makes it much easier to convert the exchange. So here, with an extra set of rook, it's not so clear, but with only one rook for me and none for my opponent, then It's supposed to be fairly simple. So additionally, now his king will be cut off, and that I think is that is it. Yeah, this was the only try to activate the king, but unfortunately the bishop will drop. So thank you, Atnos Carlsen, for the game. Sharp fight, but probably a bit too optimistic, the sacrifice. Let's see here. Let's play e4 fighter. Should I stick to this? I really enjoy the Sicilian. Let's try to go for a proper knight off again. See, German players are, in my opinion, or in my experience, very well prepared always. So it's always interesting to see what they are doing in the opening phase. Now Queen D3. Interesting. This is very modern. This is how MBL was trying against Aguirre now in the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. Not exactly like this, because I played a slightly different move order, but the idea was the same. So you put the queen on d3 in order to play knight d5, and the e4 pawn is protected. That is the key idea for white. But what I have done here, and what I think Gear is also advocating a bit in his series, is that you would delay the development of the bishop on f8. You don't put it on e7 too early, because now you can instead play g6 and put it on g7, which is more active in this structure when white has taken on d5 with the pawn. So looks a bit subtle maybe, but in fact it's a very important point. Now the bishop is way more active than it would have been on e7. So now, strategically speaking, white should be trying to push on the queen side, but then the knight on b3 is a bit in the way for the pieces. So that's why I think that I'm doing quite fine. Instead f4, which is slightly non-standard, but does make a lot of sense, especially after I have played the move h5, because now my king side is a bit weakened. I would like to play something like knight g4, but white would take and play f5. And that I don't like so much. I can play e4, but I don't really want to do it. Should I just let me just take? Ooh, also, I should not spend a minute on a single move, even if it's an important choice. So now I take because I want the e5 square for a knight. That's the main reason. First, I have to protect d6, and next I will go knight e5. So but I did not want to give up this square. Now the knight can come to d4. He will take on h5. Then the f5 square is weak, but let's see. It's basically quite sharp, but I do believe white is better here. Okay, bishop takes e5. I'm not so sure about though, because now my bishop on e5 is very, very strong, and my knight is sort of making some sense on g7, protecting my king side. So here again, don't believe that that is the way that white should play here. But still, it's very unclear. Now the queen can also come to h6. Still, yeah, not so easy. So I can give a check on b6 and take on b2, but then queen h6 will come. Is that a problem? Probably not. Bigger problem that I have half a minute left for the entire game, which means I really need to speed up. Now knight g5, big issue. f7 is dropping. No idea how I should defend it. Let's try quickly to trade a pair of rooks. Now at least I have some sort of counter chances. This. Let's go f6. Not the move that I particularly fancy playing, but now I have to be very fast here. This is not going to be easy. No. Ay. That was actually very close that I managed. But okay, excellently done by e4 fighter, and well-deserved draw after fighting so well. Let's play now Olan from France. If he is here. Or if they are here. I got a nice position with a knight. I will stick to it. Why not? To make this a proper knight of less up. f3, let's try to mix things up with queen b6. This is very rare, but I simply stop him from developing his dark squared bishop, which is a bit annoying. Okay, knight c6, I think. Bishop g5, but I am not afraid of taking on f6. Let's see. Queen d2. I will just play the usual, like b5, bishop b7, and attack on the queen side. Thank you, Puzzle. Yeah, a3, but now with all these moves, I get the feeling that my opponent is not intending to castle long. Yeah, short castle actually comes. But that is considerably less scary. The point of playing f3 and is to push the pawns on the king side, and you can't when you have castle short. So here I think I have an excellent version. Not sure if I'm better. That is always a completely different matter, but I at least am happy. Bishop f4, but bishop takes e5 is not really a concern, because then my bishop pair will be very, very strong. So yeah, my double pawn is also not that weak, because it controls a lot of squares and hinders his or my opponent's play a bit. Queen e3. I don't want to trade too much. But how do I avoid it? Probably I need some activity as well. So knight h5 to go knight f4. How did he tie Grandmaster? Yeah, no, my last opponent was fighting very well, and I sort of forgot about time a bit. That was the main reason. And although I was winning in the end, it's not in time. This 3+0, you cannot you have to all the time keep up with the pace. Cannot go too deeply into the position, which I try to do. Try to be very accurate, and then you end up with no time at all. Queen c5 is a good move. I missed this move. The point is that white really wants to trade queens, and I don't. So how do I avoid it? Queen b8, but queen b8 is very sad. I think I just have to accept. Lethal is asking if what happened to my streaming. Yeah, I was streaming for a bit, but frankly speaking, yeah, it did take so much time. So I decided to. I mean, basically, I started when there were no tournaments at all, and then some tournaments started to come back, and I had to prepare for them, and I found it very, very difficult to find more time for streaming later on. So I decided to do it very, very rarely in the future, simply because of a lack of time. Too many things in life that needs a lot of time. Let's see. Again, my opponent is fighting well, playing fast. Should I push h5 g4 to win the e4 pawn? Probably. Because I want to open up for the bishop. That is my main aim in this position. If my bishop on a8 becomes alive, like if he takes on g4, then I'm very happy. Then I'm much, much better. If not, well, then we will see what happens. I should play a3 actually. Yeah, to win the c3 pawn. That is very useful. Now I'm entering, and when I enter, it should be very, very good. Maybe it isn't actually. I'm picking up a5, which is a good start. And checkmate. This time I was a little bit faster than, than the last game. I realized in time that I was about to be flagged, so that worked very well. Let's play. Who are these people? A player from Egypt. Very interesting. Great country of Basamamin. Let's see. Hungry Eagle. I would rather see Nils playing top-level tournaments than streaming. And yeah, that was sort of my point as well, that if I am to keep up my level in chess, I cannot really spend too much time streaming. Well, it's simply time that is not then spent on working on chess. So, and I also prefer to play in the top tournaments rather than streaming them. So for the time being, that's the plan, but we will see in the future. Ah, this is actually 5 plus 0. I didn't realize. 5 plus 0 should make it less of an issue to get flagged. And now I'm happy because this pawn on c3 might look like a slight weakness, but also it's strengthening my center. And now I have the bishop pair. It should give me quite a nice attack. So I believe this is very, very nice for white. Just a question of how to break through. So I'm moving my knight backwards. It looks a bit strange, but the point is that I'm able to develop my queen. And now I believe the attack is very, very strong. If rook takes, then I play knight g4. And if the rook moves back, I will sacrifice somewhere. Don't know if it's immediately mate, but at least it's very, very promising. Yeah, thanks, Olan. Rook f5 is probably a sensible decision, like from a practical perspective, because yes, I win the exchange, but black is not getting mated immediately, at least. But maybe black is. Queen g6. Now I'm threatening knight f6. Yeah, I'm threatening knight f6. And the point is, if the king goes to the corner, then queen f7 is checkmate. But if it goes the other way, then I can take on d7, take the bishop, and in fact, everything is hanging in black's position. My queen is hanging, but I will be able to move it with check, and then the queen is dropping from. Yeah, so yeah, simply in the structure with white space advantage, you have to be very, very careful with black to not allow white free hands for attack, which is what happened. Okay, let's play. I will try to play Yoop. I have played Yoop sometimes before, I think, in my previous Banter Blitzes, but it was a long time ago. We will see how it goes nowadays. Let's play d4. How do they do it? They take knight c3. There is one line I would like to try. Knight c6. Then I can play e4. My point was after knight f6 to try f3, which is rare and dubious, but quite fun. Now I have the same opening as in the last game, actually, which is quite funny. What is this now? Knight a4 should go to c5. This sort of position is usually a bit better for white. Black has the bishop pair, but it's not that strong. First of all, I can win one of the bishops back immediately, but also the pawn on h7, like, it's very, very weak. If I'm in time to play something like bishop d3 and queen c2 or queen b1, then h7 is dropping. So it's actually quite scary for black, this. So short castle, queen b1, I think I'm already winning a pawn. Quite an important one. So also, of course, Anish played against Wesley yesterday. First of all, Wesley played the French when he needed to win. Just thought it was quite interesting. And Anish, when needing a draw, he decided to play the advanced variation, which was even more surprising because when you have very solid options, I mean, the advance is very interesting and very exciting, but it's certainly not one of the most solid options for white. So that was very interesting. Probably he does have quite a firm belief in white's position then, if he plays it even when he only needs a draw, which is interesting, let's say. Or surprising, but also, yeah, very interesting. Let's see. Can I play something like bishop b1? f5 takes and queen d3. Or is it too greedy? I will try. When you can go for when you can go for mate, I mean, you really should try, yeah, because it ends the game if it works. So he goes f5 as expected. I take. Now next rook takes. Ah, bishop takes. Ah, bishop takes. That is of course stronger because now he will defend h7 from the 7th rank. Yeah, that was missed by me. Then bishop b1 is complete nonsense. But I'm still probably doing well because I have such an active position. But certainly not as well as a few moves before. This is not my second Banter Blitz. I actually have done more, even way more. Like, I'm not sure the exact number, but it's like my 5th or 6th Banter Blitz, I think. But all the other ones were sort of a year ago or something like that. So should I take the bishop on d7 or should I think I will just take. It's not the maximalist approach, but it's slightly better and it's very solid for white. And Hardcastle, yeah, I also hope to be able to play in more top tournaments. That is nice of you to say that I deserve my spot. And I don't know, I mean, I finished what? Number 13 out of 16, so not so impressive, but I did think that I had some nice games and at least some entertaining games, and I enjoyed myself at least. I hope the viewers did as well. So this one was a bit strange because e6 is hanging, so probably it was a bit of a miss by my opponent. A very welcome miss. And this was a bit of a miss by me. Should not have let him activate the knight. I have a feeling this game will be decided on the clock rather than on the board, which always is something that I prefer to avoid, but yeah, now I'm trading. I'm 2 pawns up, so there is no doubt that I'm winning, but will I be in time? Probably I will be, actually. Yeah. Oh, I scored 2-2 against Jupp, so this was an important win, actually. Yeah, let's see. Oh, so many options. Let's try to play against Zavitch. Revenge taken, yeah. And Harriger Hesht, thank you for the Queen's Gambit video. Yeah, you're welcome. I did for Ginger GM a course on the Queen's Gambit with the early move a6, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. I was myself quite happy with it, and I have been playing it a lot in classical and online rapid chess with decent results. So very happy that you enjoyed. Let's see, bishop b7. So this is the system that I had a game with white earlier in this, like half an hour ago. And then I said that it was quite a tricky system to face, and now I'm having no clue what to do with black. So probably I should not reveal all my opinions until after the session, because this might be this might get very risky for me. Let's see, okay, 95. I'm afraid there will be some sacrifice somewhere, but for the time being, I don't see it. If g5, can I take on f3? That is the question. And the answer is that most probably I can't. Take, knight takes e4, take, bishop takes. Yeah, some knight d4 or something. There are so many problems. It simply isn't even close. But after f4, I was really hoping that the tactics would start to work for me with b4. If he moves the knight, I take on e4. That is the key pawn for white. So that is like the whole fundament of white's position. This is pawn on f3 and e4, that they are very solidly taking control of this over the center. But once the e4 pawn drops in the Sicilian, I mean, usually you're happy to give an exchange for it, for instance, or sometimes even a piece. So here he is winning the piece back, but I think I'm happy. I hope I'm happy. Because I will be able to develop now quite safely. Like I will play bishop d6 and castle on the next move. And then, yeah, it's difficult to attack this king with the bishop on b2, but also white's attack is very, very slow, so it should be okay. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm better, but I'm fairly sure I'm not worse. So white should try to play something like h5 and g6 and mate me, but the pawn is hanging on d5. Bishop c4, that is quite surprising to me. I could take with the knight and just pick up the pawn. Then white will start to attack me, and I'm not sure. So I will actually give the exchange. I hope it will be... I mean, my main point is not so much that I will start an attack, but I will remove all white's hopes of attacking me. And then I will have one pawn and very long-term compensation for the exchange. It's particularly nice that I'm able to eliminate this bishop. So I think even f5 now. And the big point is I will be able to play e4 next if I'm allowed. Have I tried the new play zone? Yeah, you know, a little secret. Forget about it. We are playing on the new play zone in the actual event, like in the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. The whole Champions Tour is played on the new play zone, so I have a lot of experience with it. It's quite fun. I like that you can like get the kind of board you want and so on. Yeah, now my opponent realized that I will have e4 winning the queen, so he decides to resign. Thank you for the game. It was sharp, but in the Sicilian, one mistake is usually enough, unfortunately. Let's see. I will play. Let's play with Gamma. Stefano Gamma from Italy. G6. How do we play against g6? Let's play knight c3. I will now try to castle long and give mate. We'll see if I'm successful. b6. b6 is a bit passive looking. I'm slightly skeptical about b6, to be honest. It looks to me like the sort of move that you should prefer. I mean, you should try to avoid in the Sicilian, in these sharp Sicilians. And d6, yeah, d6 is not that great in combination with b6, unfortunately. Unfortunately for my opponent. So with a clear extra piece, this should be fairly straightforward. I'm asked if I know Ulf Andersson. Of course I know Ulf Andersson. All Swedish chess players know Ulf Andersson. And yeah, I did work with him quite a bit as a kid. I learned a lot about positional play and endings and so on. It was very nice, and he's of course a very friendly guy, and was a nice experience. Now he's somewhat old and doesn't play chess himself anymore, really, but I still meet him from time to time, although quite rarely. And what is the opening system that we had in the last game? Yeah, in this this strange Sicilian line. I actually don't know what it's called. I think Magnus Carlsen was the one who introduced it against Wojtaszek in the Gashima Memorial a couple of years back, but don't know if they actually decided upon a name for it. So checkmate. Thank you for the game, Stefano Gemma. Well played. And now I will play against Eric. Eric 93. Maybe I should know who it is. If it's someone born in 93, it should be possible to guess who it is, but because I'm also born in 93. So queen b6 looks to me like a dubious move, but Magnus played it yesterday against Nepomniachtchi. So I decided to give it a go today. And now we are back to something I think is called the Grivas Sicilian, which is a somewhat provocative, but probably not that bad a line. So the point is you lose a tempo with the queen, but the knight has to drop away from the center, white's knight, and then this is beneficial for black. So in fact, you might argue that black wins a tempo rather than loses one, because the knight is better placed on d4. That is the argument. Then if it's true, this is more unclear because the knight also has some advantages on b3. It's not getting hit anymore and more control over d5 and so on. So there are positives and negatives about queen b6, but it definitely is a real line. So now I have a slightly better structure, and I'm not sure there is any clear compensation for it. I think I'm just a bit better, but not so much. Just slightly better structure. Thank you, Hardcastle. Yeah, I mean, but actually many players now, yeah, like Geary is also playing the Knight of Aleppo and so on. There were a little bit too many Berlin quick draws for my taste now in the tournament, but I mean, we also have to understand that players are mainly trying to qualify. That's the important thing. So it's understandable that they do what they consider gives them the best chances. Not sure if they are right always. Seems to me they are sometimes going a bit too solid, but well, some of them qualified and I didn't, so we should not be judging them too harshly. But for me, yeah, I imagine it's very unlikely that sometime in the future I will start to play the Berlin, let's say, for many reasons. But yeah, it's simply not my kind of thing. Also, I think I would struggle because it's not easy to play the Berlin. It looks easy when they know exactly what they are doing all the time. But if you haven't studied it very well, then it's easy to end up in trouble also in the Berlin. So I prefer to stick with the sharper openings, riskier openings, let's say. Eric actually resigns. He's only 1 pawn down, but yeah, the structure is quite bad and there is no compensation. Still, it's quite early to resign there, in my opinion, but what to do? Now I will play against a fellow Swedish player, Viggo Petrus. And I will start the game with b3. I don't know who Viggo Petrus is, but it says it's a Swede. And I'm also from Sweden, so let's see. Maybe due to time, yeah, maybe it could be. I'm always confused about these positions, like how am I supposed to play this? I can play knight f3, but then comes e4, which is something that I don't want to allow. Probably g3. I mean, it's clearly a position that I have never seen in my life before, but I have seen similar things. So I should be able to have some sort of clue, but the question is, what do I do in the center? Should I play knight f3? Which was the point of my last move. I think I will do it. If he plays e4, I will play knight g5 now that that square is available. How important are openings on the 2000 Elo level? Well, difficult to say. In general, I don't believe the concrete moves are that important, but you have to understand some basic features, like you have to understand some structures and what are the ideas there, and also like the key concepts, like to develop, to not weaken yourself, to get your king to safety, and so on. Apart from that, I think not so important. You certainly don't need to remember a lot of long lines, that's clear. And that is also what we do on a higher level when we study openings. It's not so much maybe openings. We are rather studying what will likely happen immediately after the opening. So like the middle games arising and so on. We call it opening study because it is what we imagine will happen immediately after the opening. But in actual fact, I think for a lower level player, they would call it sort of middle game studies rather than opening studies. If I like Zlatan, Is it my my friend Laurent Fresinet who asks if I like Zlatan? He is the biggest Zlatan fan I have ever met in my life, which is always quite fun. But no, I have not met any of the great Swedes, actually, unfortunately. None of the big sportsmen. Yeah, now the black needed to take with the bishop on c6, I think, because this pawn is very valuable. Now the dark squares are very, very strong for me and for my bishop. So here, for instance, I'm immediately winning an exchange with bishop a3. So should be a fairly straightforward technical win now. So it's an extra exchange on the pawn, but also all my pieces are very sensibly placed. And black's knight on b6, for instance, is quite bad. So should be, yeah, now the rook falls, so should be it. Of course, my opponent is fighting until his last straw, but after this liquidation, yeah, okay, thank you, Viggo, for the game. And let's see what else we have here. Let's try a game against a Polish player. I'm trying to mix up the countries a bit. So Zibaldo, what will he do? Some English. G3 or E4 is always the question, but I will go E4. Play the Marozzi bind, which is what Magnus played with black against Giri in the game he lost. So probably not the most solid of openings for black, but it's very much a matter of style, because you have a lot of squares and you have this stability, but you are also passive. It's a bit, you can end up without any active IDs at all very easily with black here, due to white space advantage. Now the little move a3, one of my favorite moves. This is really my favorite line in this Marozzi. It does not look like much, but it's actually very unpleasant for black to face. You simply keep all the pieces. Rook c8, okay. Let me try to move. So with the space advantage, generally what you're trying to do is to keep as many pieces as possible on the board, which is why I moved the knight. And also, knight g4 doesn't bother me now that I have the pawn on h3. So far, so good, I think. Generally, yeah, black should be trying to break out, but that's the problem in this position, and that's why it's considered slightly dubious that it's so hard to break out with black. You have to get some b5 or d5, but it's simply not possible, or very rarely possible. So if I'm careful, I should not allow it at all. Now I can jump 95, but I'm not sure if I want to. I don't see quite what it brings. I'll just develop instead. After bishop e6, it's even harder to resist jumping 95. But the problem is he moves the queen, and I don't know how to follow up. So I think I'll just keep making non-committal moves and wait for his space advantage to space disadvantage to hurt him even more. '97, but now the bishop on e6 is a bit trapped, isn't it? If I play knight g5, it looks quite unpleasant for the bishop on e6. What is going? Yeah, knight f8 may be necessary, but that's a sad sign for black. Now I can really get an initiative. Let's see. And I'm taking with the e-pawn because I want to have this majority on the queen side. I just want to push the pawns. I think they are quite scary for black. He tries to kick me away. That is very logical. But it's simply, yeah, this is the problem when it is Marozzi, that you end up so passive with black sometimes. I think this is a case in point. It is simply too passive, I think. Now it's time for me. I don't want to play f4 normally to weaken myself, but I have some concrete ideas in mind, which is to play the move c6. If it takes, I take back with the pawn, and the pawn on a6 is dropping off. And if it doesn't take, then, well, I have advanced even further. I have bishop b6 next. And now I think bishop b6 followed by c7 is quite nice, because the queen will get stuck on a8. Yeah, let's see. It's a very sad queen on a8, and it's, I think, a nice illustration of the dangers for black in this opening. I mean, if you are not careful, you are really ending up so passively. Where should I go? So after 97, actually, my point was simply to play a5. But now, if he's smart, he plays a5 himself. And now the queen is actually getting out a little bit. Not getting out for real, let's say, but more out than before. But how do I do this? I think I'll just play rook a1. This looks a bit strange. I'm just giving up the exchange. But I'm keeping the queen locked in. That is the main factor here. And also the pawn on c7 is worth almost a rook. e5, that's a good move. He must try to break out, but it's, I think, too little too late. Now there should be some tactics that works for me. And yeah, it collapsed. I mean, black definitely needed to capture the rook when I played rook a1, but I still believe I mean, without black's only, the bishop was the only active piece in black's position, so it should be very, very tough after that as well. Let's see. I'm challenged by someone called Nils, which is my own name. So let's see what happens. If I'm playing, it's not myself, but someone with the same name. Knight c3 again. They are trying maybe the same system with d4, queen takes d4. Someone is copying my name. This is I have to win the battle of the Nilses. That's clear. So the problem here for black is that you have to always be ready for white transversing to an open Sicilian with d4. My opponent does not, but if he had, I was not sure what would have happened. Now h5, it's not the most serious move, I believe, but usually when white is trying to be very solid with this slow setup, it makes some sense to try to hit him immediately. So I will even play the provocative move bishop e7 in order to go g5 next. I think with the knight on e2 rather than on f3, this g5 is actually quite dangerous for him. If I do it now, it would mean a pawn sacrifice, but I don't care. Yeah, he does take the pawn, but my idea was that I would have some attack. How do I probably start with h4? Maybe I'm overestimating this sort of slight initiative, but it does look pretty interesting. How do I follow up? Let's go here. If bishop f3, I have some knight e5 jumps. If bishop h1, I will flick in h2 and force the king to a vulnerable square. So bishop f3 definitely should be the move. Yeah, bishop f3 played. Now in which order do I do what I want to do? I can also play d6, forcing the bishop to choose direction. But bishop e3, and if he later takes with f pawn on e3, then he gets a bit more active. So I play knight e5. Now knight g3 will most probably be played. I think it's obligatory. And then the question is how to continue the attack. But yeah, how do I do it? Let's try queen f6. This knight on g8 needs to be activated. I would like to go knight e7, knight g6, but it's also very slow. I'm not sure I have time for it. Ah, bishop h1. This was very scary looking, I thought, because now all I need is a knight to f4 and it would be checkmate. How do I get my knight to f4? I can also play knight h4, knight f3 and go that way. Could also be very dangerous. But the move I wanted to play was knight e7, but then white would take it. And I mean, I would get one attacker less. So I will try to immediately give mate with knight g3, but it's less sort of thematic. Thematic would be to invite all the friends to the party. On the other hand, I don't see how knight h4 is going to be stopped. So okay, knight h5 is probably a good attempt. How do I handle it? Very confusing stuff. But what is actually going on? And king takes h2. Which move do I play? A king h3 also very interesting. I underestimated this a bit. So basically it wasn't possible, but now it's a huge mess. Can I take? I will take. I will not lose momentum here. I will try to keep it. So my point is to play d6 with ID e5 next, and then when the bishop comes to c8, it should be checkmate. But he should make some counter-attacking move, like something like f4. Yeah, f4 played. That's a move I really like for white. That's a very good move. I have this sort of hunch that what I'm doing is now not at all sound anymore. Like bishop e3 now. I will have to keep to my idea of e5, bishop c8, but if he now takes, and the king will take on h2, and white is sort of solid, I guess. I must have missed something because my position was so nice. It was very close to mate, but yeah, he defended well. Unfortunately for him, this queen g4, missing my key idea, I think, and after bishop c8, I'm picking up the queen, and that should be game over. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Nils. This was quite an exciting game, and I don't think it was clear at all in the end. That's it. Now I'm playing versus Dejan from Slovenia. First Slovene player of the evening. If he's there. And I will try to play the Jobava system if he replies. I will play the knight c3, bishop f4, and because I was running into some trouble with black there previously. So my opponent, they are not. Does not seem to be there. I will abort the game. And I will take on a player from another country we have not seen. I think it's Andorra. Let's see. Maybe I'm somehow picking challenges in a stupid way because they seem to be inactive, the people I have picked. Let's see. I think I should sort of pick the latest challenges probably. I scrolled down a bit too much. Yeah. This is no good. Wake up, Andorra. what to do. South Africa, log 11. That will be already game on. Big success. And what should I do now? Which move did I not play yet? Let's play this old line, e5, a6. I think this is the 11th tile or something like that. It was played recently in some game, very high level. Maybe Rajabov was black against, not in the Magnus Carlsen Invitational, but in the previous one. Please remind me, I forgot who it was. I think it was definitely Rajabov with black, but with white, no idea. So I have no clue about theory in this line, but if I understood correctly, you're supposed to sort of just counterattack very quickly and hope for the best. Is it with d5? We will never know. I'm doing it with d5 at least. Now do I go knight d4 or knight e4? I will just go. Knight d4 is sort of slower. Knight b4 was very sharp, but could also be losing by force. Knight d4 is more. I mean, I don't want to say positional because it's certainly not positional, but it's a little bit slower in tendency. Let's say. Rajabov played queen e7 instead of queen f6. Okay, so that's probably better than. Queen f6 was how this line was played when I started it last time, which was when I was like 12 years old or so, some 15 years ago. And yes, I did play Tamar in the Magnus Carlsen Invitational. It was a very tough fight. First he was better, then I was completely winning for a long time. And then we got into a very interesting theoretical ending where I had queen, bishop, and 2 pawns, and he had queen and 3 pawns. So I had the bishop for a pawn, but he did have some sort of fortress or something that looked like a fortress. And I could not break it down. And it actually turned out to be a theoretical draw, which I did not know about. So very, very interesting game with Tamar, and I did learn some new things there. And what is this now? Some complete mess. I'm a pawn down, but I don't think that the pawn is going to be a key factor here. Key factor is whether white is going to fight off my attack or not. My hunch is that he should be able to do it. But that's a completely different thing to actually do it in practical play. So how do we do this? Can I take on f4 actually? He will take on d4. Another move is to take on c2. That looks completely insane, but also quite interesting. Knight takes d5 is not a move I want to play. What should I do? Okay, I will play it in a boring way. Just trying to keep more pieces on the board. Knight f5. Yeah, unfortunately, I think, by the way, this will have to be the last game because we are running out of time. So let's make it an entertaining one. Now I'm hitting g2, which I think is quite scary for white. Not sure how you're supposed to defend it. If g2 drops, then c2 is hanging, and also h1 and so on. So that should probably not be allowed. Yeah, my opponent is playing very well, but unfortunately for him, a little bit too slowly is my guess. I have too many threats now. Knight e3. Yeah, knight e3, and the problem is that the knight on e4 is hanging. So this should be now. Should be very good, but how to decide? Probably convert in a boring fashion going to the ending. Yeah, and 2 pawns down, so it's a win. I think that's it for me for today, guys. I will be doing another Banter Blitz Monday evening, I think. No, sorry, Tuesday evening. And also, as I mentioned at the beginning of the cast, that I will be joining Hare Krishna for commentary both today and tomorrow during the rounds. So if you want more of me, see you there. Otherwise, take care and thank you for all the games. Well fought, and see you around.